snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys, so I am here today to do some book reviews, or rather magazine reviews. They're kind of like anthology magazine things that I discovered the other day. This is Island. It's basically a comic anthology magazine. So there are lots of different people who contribute into each of the different issues. You never really know who's going to be in the book and what they're going to talk about, what stories they're going to draw, what style they're going to do. You have no idea about any of that. So it's very much an issue by issue, see how it goes, because it depends on the people. But I saw the first one and the second one in my local comic book shop the other day, and I was talking to the guy about it in there, and he said that it's put together by Emma Rios and Brandon Graham, both of whom I had read previous things by and enjoyed, so I was quite intrigued. And I wanted to give it a go, and it's much cheaper than a regular graphic novel because it is a magazine. It's not as highly produced, but it still has some really interesting stuff. So I'm going to talk to you guys today about issue 1, 2 and 3, which are, I think, the only issues out until the end of October when issue 4 comes out. So let's start with issue 1. Basically, the concept for this magazine is that everyone gets free rein. They can do what they like. It can be contemporary, historical, fantastical, sci-fi, whatever you want it to be, it can be, and it's down to the creators what style and what story they want to tell. So when you first open it up, you always have a few random pages at the beginning, and then you come to the contents page, which tells you who all of the creators are and what they are going to be doing. So in this one we have Marion Churchland, Emma Rios, Kelly Sue DeCognac, Brandon Graham and Ludrow. I'm just going to give you a quick glimpse of each of their artwork styles so that you guys can see. The first story is by Emma Rios and it's called Why Don't You Like Your Body? And this one was a really interesting story. I like the art style for this. It's very red, as you can see, very tonally red, but it is very cluttered. It was kind of hard at times to sort of be able to tell exactly what was going on because it is very cluttered and you don't necessarily get all the details in one go, so you can definitely spend a while looking around the boxes and the scenes. The story follows 3 different characters as they are sort of getting ready for a transitional period in their lives and sort of seeing and discussing all the changes that they're going to be having over the next few weeks and why they're doing it and things like that. And it's quite loose, that you don't really get that vibe right at the start. You have to read on to find out more. But it is an enjoyable read, and I gave this one a 2.5 out of 5. It's okay, it's likeable, but it's not great, so, and plus this is only the first half. Some of them continue into the second issue or third issue of the whole magazine, so you only get some of the story. The next thing we come to in the magazine is called Railbirds, and this was a sort of dedication eulogy which was written by Kelly Sue DeCognac, and this one was for Maggie Eastep, who was kind of like a tutor to her and a really good friend, and so it's got illustrations again by Emma Rios, but it's mainly a written piece. I actually really loved this. I thought it was really well written, very beautiful and very heartfelt, so I gave that one a 4 out of 5 stars. Then we move on to a different art style. This one is Brandon Graham himself. He's a little bit crazy, which means his story is a little bit crazy, but it is full of vibrance, full of life, full of excitement, and you just, I mean, there's so many weird and wacky creatures in this, it's just unreal. So yeah, I think it's a really crazy story. I didn't really get all of it because it is only the first part, and again, it will be continued in a later issue, but it was kind of weird and wacky and interesting all at once, so yeah, definitely one I'm looking forward to continuing with, and I think Brandon Graham's a really intriguing character just from the way that he writes and the way that he tells stories and the way that he uses lots of puns and focuses on language and really draws you into the very minute small details as well as the overall story, and I really like that. So that was very interesting, and I gave that one a 3.5 out of 5 because it is just pretty crazy and weird. Then we come on to Ludrow's story, and this one was unfortunately the one that really didn't connect or click with me. The art style just isn't my thing. I think it's really over-exaggerated. The postures, the expressions, the body movements are all very over-exaggerated, and it's very in-your-face dramatic. It's supposed to be a sort of skateboard-esque story with some really cool action scenes, but for me it just didn't work really, and I wasn't a big fan. And unfortunately, I only gave that a 1.5 out of 5. It wasn't horrible, but it just really wasn't my thing at all. So, and then at the end of the magazines, we always have something extra. So at the end of this one, we've got a little extract from Brandon Graham talking about why he's doing it and stuff. So for the whole of issue 1, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great entry point into the magazine. They had some great stories to intrigue you. None of them were really fantastical. They had small fantastical elements to them. I suppose Brandon Graham's is fantastical, but it's also really crazy. Graham and DeConnick definitely were the ones that intrigued me the most, and that kind of continued on throughout the later issues too. But for issue number 1 of Island, I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars overall, sort of combining all my ratings, and that's what I came up with. It was likeable, but it wasn't amazing. It was definitely something that held promise. So I then picked up issue number 2 in the series, which is this one. It looks very beautiful. I'm sure you will agree that the kind of fish-like character on the front cover is very beautiful. Again, as I say, it very much depends on the creators. But I loved these first few pages in this one. I thought they were exceptionally beautiful. I hope you guys can see that really nicely. But the colour schemes and the detailing of these first few pages was just so stunning. And they were done by Will Kirkby, who I really loved his stuff. I thought it was very beautiful. Yeah. As soon as I saw this, I knew I had to pick up issue 2. Even if I hadn't liked issue 1, I wanted the first few pages of this because they were so beautiful. Then we came back to the Ludrow story, which continues in the exact same art style as before. Still wasn't a fan, so I only gave that a 1.5 again because it didn't improve really. It just didn't interest me that much. It was very action-packed, very in your face, but it wasn't something I personally connected to or enjoyed that much. Then we had this story, which is a much more sort of drawn back, very pastel light colours, very sort of neutral based, and this is by Simon Roy, and it's basically a story that has kind of a blend of tribal cultures and sci-fi, so it's a really interesting mix. I found that the expressions of the people and the characterisation was definitely interesting. There were some bloody bits. I would say none of these are really for kids. They're like definitely mature, not light reads necessarily. But I did love these sort of swooping cityscape scenes and things like that. I thought they were done really nicely. So I gave the second story in this, which is by Simon Roy, 3 out of 5 stars. Again, it's one that does continue the further on with the issues you go, so it has the potential to get better, and it definitely ends on a cliffhanger. Then we come back to Emma Rios' story. This is the final part of that, and I liked the ending, but I didn't love it. I think it wasn't quite as interesting to me as the first one, so I only gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. It was alright overall, but not my favourite thing. Unfortunately, issue number 2 was definitely not my favourite. I ended up giving it a 2 out of 5 stars overall. I really liked the first few pages, but that was pretty much it. The rest of it was just take it or leave it. Some of it definitely leave it, so that was that one. Then I went on to issue number 3 in the series, and I actually really enjoyed this one. So it is very dependent on who is within the magazine, as I've said a couple of times. So the first few pages in this one, you'll notice, are really bright, very vibrant. It's kind of like this rainforest scene, but obviously highly stylized. A lot of the stories in this are highly stylized, and that story is by Jose Domingo, and it was the first time I'd seen his work, and I did like it. It just kind of was nice to look at rather than being a fully developed story, so I gave that a 2 out of 5 stars because it was nice, but not anything special. Then we have a story which is kind of futuristic. It's about this guy. Basically, he lives in a world where everyone has their thoughts floating around their head, and they can access this sort of wireless network with their brains, and everyone is connected to it, so it's kind of very, overdone sci-fi. But this is quite an interesting one because it focuses on a character when he actually goes out of service and he doesn't connect to it anymore, and he's grown up all of his life connected to the service. So to have it not there is quite a change for him, and I really like seeing the ideas behind that. This is by Malachi Ward and Matt Sheen, and I thought they were a great little team. I thought some of the drawings were great. The expressions were a little bit odd at times, but honestly overall it was probably one of the better stories, and I did definitely get intrigued, and I really want to know where it's going. This is my favourite page in that one because it's just very stunning, very beautiful. So yeah, love the colours that they're going for on that one. And so I gave that a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Then we move on to this story. This one is by Dilaj Man, I'm not sure how you say it. I liked this story-wise. It was interesting. It was about a girl who had split up with her girlfriend and then happened to meet another one in a club, so it's quite contemporary in feel. It was a likeable story. I didn't care for the art style. I liked the bold colours, but I didn't like the heavy stylized facial expressions and body shapes and just kind of weirdness that went along with it. It just didn't really connect to me personally, but if you like the art style then you might really like it. A lot of the scenes are very bold, very colourful, very primary colours. So I gave that one a 2 stars overall. Then we have Amy Claire's story, which is this one. As you can see, it's really colourful, but these pages that are highly coloured in sort of purples and pinks are actually out of focus, and they're intentionally done that way, I think. It's very weird to read, but I definitely love the colour choices. And then we have some pages in the same story that are much darker in tone. Again, it's heavily stylised. We have a lot of sort of expressions that are overdone and that sort of thing to suck you in. I couldn't really tell you what this one was about because it's weird. There might be another part later on, but it's just very peculiar. I didn't really get everything that was happening. I think maybe I was a bit lost with this one because there was so much going on, and there was a lot of weird pages where the boxes weren't boxes, they were all blended together and different things were pointed out to you, but it was all just a bit crazy for me, so I don't know if that was just me being a bit out the loop. But yeah, I didn't really get that one, and so I gave it a 2.5 because I did like the art, but yeah, it was a weird one. I feel like if there's another part, it might explain what was going on. Then we have a really short, a few pages long story, and this one is by Tessa Black. I loved this. It has no words, it's just pictures, and yet it's very beautiful and very creepy all at once. It's about a lady who turns into a sea witch, and it's just weird and creepy, and love the colour palette, just the white background and the black line and then a tiny hint of blue to show the colour of the sea. So I really liked this one. I thought it was very beautiful and very weird and creepy as well because, yeah, I mean, she kind of goes through phases of being very beautiful and very ugly and very scary all at once, so really cool little story, and I gave that one a 4 out of 5 stars. And then the final story within this is a story which is by Kate Craig, and I loved this one. It was so good. It is one of the longer ones as well, so that was awesome. But yeah, the art style of this really worked for me. It was very beautiful. As you can see, it's very rich, deep colours. Not really primary colours, but just very deep and rich and very enchanting. It's about this man and lady who are in the wilderness, and the man seems to have got hurt somehow. We never really told how, and the lady's going off to try and really help and find someone who can sort of airlift him out because they're on their own in the middle of nowhere. And it's just a really lovely story, and I really enjoyed it. So I hope that there is a second part to this because there's the potential to be, and I hope there is because it was by far my favourite story of all of the magazines so far. But it was just really beautifully produced. The colours and the boxes and the characters were all fabulously drawn, and I just felt like the story was awesome. So those are all of the ones in that, and I gave the last one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. And overall I gave the whole of Magazine of Ireland issue 3 a 4 out of 5 stars. So that is all 3 of them that are currently out, and my thoughts on each of the individual stories without spoiling what they actually do and what they actually are. If you haven't seen it around, then definitely check your local comic shop to see if they've got it. I'm sure they will, and I'm really excited to see what issue 4 brings out because it's always different, it's always fresh and new, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you guys have been reading it or if you're planning to read it, leave me comments down below letting me know who your favourite artists and stories within are, and I will see you all again soon in another video. Thank you for watching. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little chat about the